Hey guys, how are you?
Hello,
Hello,
What's
hello.
that?
Disruptors Roundtable. Let's go.
Arr.
Ooh, that's but you can't even see it. I'm so like squished in my thing. So, all right. So, Jeremy, why don't you lead? Where are we going?
Lead. So welcome everyone to the Conscious Leadership Network Disruptors Roundtable. We have upgraded this from monthly to bi-monthly, so you're going to get extra disruption in your life. The Conscious Leadership Network is a network of movements around the revolution of reality, the revolution to build a better reality. And we're glad that you're joining us from wherever around the world you are. If you're catching the replay, and we're just launching, so people are going to be joining, hopefully, and or else we'll just have a party ourselves, because that's what we do. And so this series is we have been doing the pillars of a holistic life, and today's topic, if it is still what we said last time, is finance and the disruption of finance specifically. And let's introduce everyone. Palace, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Hi. So I am Palace Dame, and I am the CEO for Authority Establishment, which is the overarching company organization for all of this year, the Conscious Leadership Network and everything else that's involved, and founder of the CLN. And as you can see in my title right there, I do integrative health and spend the majority of my time in consciousness, in quantum medicine, in the deep spiritual roots of dis-ease within the body, mind, and all of that. So there you go.
Nice. And welcome, everybody. My name is Xavier Smith, a.k.a. Mr. XL Smith, a.k.a. Coach X. You know the one. I got a lot of names, but I only have one mission. I kind of been sitting here to impact, inspire, and improve the lives of others on a daily basis. And today is no different. One thing I want you to know about me is I care more than the average bear, and probably to a detriment, but I'm okay with that. I promise you I will get better. So let's go. I'm ready.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
And I am Jeremy Lastman, founder and pioneer of Imagination Technology. What's up, Johan?
Johan is in the building.
Yes. What's up? So I used to work for SpaceX, and then I took my passion for technology and I went into taking it and making an impact on people, and really helping people go from being buried by stress and to go to mastering their passion, to experience like flow state and freedom and all the stuff that happens when you put your mastery, when you go into mastery. And I'm really excited because it's my work, it's my creativity, it's my art, it's my science, and new levels every day. What's up, Aaron?
He's looking forward to this discussion. I love that dude.
Yeah, I wonder if he's gonna hop on. So let's start. So this isn't just, we're not just gonna have a normal conversation on finance. That for me would be kind of boring. And for me, that's why I'm doing these Disruptors Roundtables, is because we want to approach new territories. We want to say things that haven't been said, or that the taboos that don't get called out. And so as we kind of approach this topic of finance, because it is a pillar of life, and I always love to start with the terms, because I want to be on the terms with you guys. How do you guys define? I know it sounds like a basic question, but really, if we want to dissect and get into new ground, we have to kind of start at the grammar here. What is finance, and is it the same as money? Is
Ooh.
To you, is finance the same as money? And how do you define it?
So can I just step in one moment and come up with some creative ground rules for this one?
Please, of course.
I got my timer. We're going to put a 1 minute timer, and whoever goes first, you got 1 minute. And then when the timer goes off, we're done.
Love it.
Hey, Google, set timer for 1 minute.
1 minute, starting now.
Who's first?
You hit that one, Xavier. You start.
Okay, so for me, finance is not always equating to money. You can go into financial literacy and understand the concepts behind money or something other than money. We can go into little rabbit holes of what it takes to be secure, because one person's consideration of finance could be they just want to, live well enough to go get a donut at, Dunkin' Donuts, and they are cool. Another person's definition might be I have to have $1 million every year coming in consistently. So it's all about it's subjective, but I just believe that we have the opportunity to create whatever we want around that term. Boom. It's time.
Perfect.
Nice. So you can set a timer for me.
Hey, Google, set timer for 1 minute.
1 minute, starting now.
Go.
All right. So when it comes to finance and money, I really look at that more in a energetic space of what is the financial investment that we're putting in ourselves, because we work so hard for the cash, we work so hard for the coin, and then whatever we do with that money is a direct reflection of what we're bringing back into ourselves. And so really, what is our financial investment into our lives, into our core economy, into how we show up, really how we show up in the world? Oh, look at this. Johan is here.
What's up, Johan?
Hi.
Hey, Jeremy.
Hi. And so, for me, it's a difference. It's a difference. It's a financial investment, because money is the energy exchange. Money equals like food, healthy food. Money equals the experiences that we have in life with healthy relationships. Money equals the toxins that we bring in or we keep out. So go ahead and tell Johan what we're doing, where we're at, and he can be on the hot seat.
Okay, Johan.
I just followed you. I'm up to date.
Oh, he's up to date. Are you ready?
He's been watching.
Okay. And Johan, where are you streaming in from?
Germany. Hi. Oh yeah.
Amazing.
Hey, Google, set timer for 1 minute.
1 minute, and we're starting now.
Okay, you're on the hot seat, Johan.
Okay, guys. So, money, is money success or not? Is success equal to money? What comes first, the success or the mindset of a successful person? So, do you get successful by just changing your behaviors to behave like a successful person or not? Does money come then to you, or is it the other way, right? Vice versa, like you first got money and then you're gonna be successful. Who knows?
I like that.
Excellent questions. And I want to hold back from diving in on any of those questions because I want to do mine. Can we get that timer going?
Okay. Hey, Google, set timer for 1 minute.
1 minute.
All right. So I looked it up on Google just to get like the official definition so that I can really interpret how I see this. And the management of large amounts of money and the support for an enterprise, and then it has roots in settling a debt. And so when I take that, I feel the energy of money is the actual thing that we're exchanging. Finance is the flow of that money. And so to make an ends meet. And so I'm similar to Palace in the energetics of it, and it is the management of energy. It is the management of whatever you're exchanging. That is finance in the funding and the most apt fun. It is the funding of your energy in the world through the avenue of money. That is finance to me.
I like that. You just made it too. Yeah, you sparked some good ideas that I can piggyback off of, but I'll save that for later.
No, I think
well, I keyed in on the word exchange. You know, it's an exchange of your energy versus the value. If we're talking like strictly monetarily, you know, there is all that is money. You know, you're talking about exchange of energy. We just have to I got some feedback. We just happen to use like a monetary coin to decide and agree upon whatever that value is.
Right.
And in some cases, it doesn't have to come in the form of the dollar.
Yes.
Aaron says, I like the timer thing. Hot seat. Boom.
It's hot. It's hot.
Yes. Oh, so anybody else? We can do a round robin.
So I can go off on a different tangent. I think that a lot that has to do with money and finance has to do with our relationship with money and what it means to our core identity structure of who we are. You know, kind of in similar vein to some of the things that Johan was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Like what we're trying to do in the Conscious Leadership Network, for one, is blur all the lines between all people. We're all just humans. We're all just humans here having a human experience. We're doing this thing together, and it's not about socioeconomic background. It's not about political affiliation. It's not about our modalities or whatever we do in life, right? But there's so much that's attached to finances and how much is in our bank account, and you know, and what kind of ring we're wearing, and how expensive is our clothing. And Jeremy, this kind of goes back to our live that we did on the radio, on Business Talk Radio, right? About the identities that we have and how people's identities have become so fractured during COVID because of all the lockdowns and staying at home and not being able to go to work and show up as the manager, show up as the, you know, fashionista, show up as this or that. You know, we stay home in our PJs, we do our stuff, and we have to meet ourselves where we're at. And so who are we when we're not donning ourselves with those additional things, when we're not driving that car everywhere and we're not showing up and, you know, running this big show in person and feeling the energetic exchange of that identity that we have of running that thing or whatever that is, right? And so I think that finance equals identity for the majority of people, because it goes back to marketing. It goes back to media. It goes back to all the amazing, beautiful people on all the movies and the airbrushed people in the magazines, and none of that's real, but everybody's striving for that thing. And it goes back to, you know, 50 people showing up to do that makeup job and the hair and the clothing and the this and the that. And like people are always striving for this ideal of perfection that is, and not everybody, but so many people are striving for this ideal of perfection that is hinged on being able to pay for that next thing to get you there versus accomplishing that internally.
I got a question, a power question that we can go roundtable on. You guys ready?
Mm-hmm.
What was the language that you picked up from your parents concerning finance? Who wants to take it?
You go ahead, Johan.
Hey, Google, set timer for 1 minute.
Muted.
You're muted. Johan, you're muted.
Pardon. Okay. Well, actually, I didn't get much of like financial thoughts, like not much positive financial thoughts, and mostly like just keep your money together, learn how to manage your money. But there was never a person who was like showing me how to do it. So still today I'm struggling somehow to manage my money. Well, it's getting better and better, and I'm not worried, but that's a basic thing that you should give to your children to learn, to teach them how to talk to money, how to work with money, how to love money. And that's the way it plays out somehow.
Boom.
Yeah.
You made it. Great answer.
Yeah.
Who wants to take it next?
Yeah.
Jeremy, you go ahead. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah. For me, it was kind of like, especially because my parents got divorced when I was 8 years old. So it was kind of these two different belief structures and philosophies. On one side, money was the comfort. Money was the focus on comfort and making sure things were comfortable, and the ability to do that was from the money, and the money being kind of this almost the conditional factor of the love, and the comfort was kind of intertwined. And on the other side is like I had the Jewish culture, and everything that kind of follows the Jewish culture of like getting the deal, getting the best deal, making sure nothing was frivolous, and like kind of not tight, but very what's the word, like needed, like only things that were needed, and careful with it, like that. The Great Depression, but like that kind of mentality kind of taken in, and being smart with it, I guess, is really the best way to put it.
Love that. The clock didn't run on that one. I don't know why. But I've got some traffic coming through, so I'm going to mute myself.
I'll go. So when it comes to money, my growing up was spent. I come from a Jewish background as well. It wasn't integrated into my daily life in the way that it was with Jeremy. My dad was Jewish, and he comes from a very, very distinct Jewish background. And he grew up with a very affluent father, didn't necessarily do things the right way to get the money, but very affluent. And later on, when it was time for my dad to kind of take those roles with what his dad did, they owned these nightclubs, this nightclub, hotel, that side of the thing, that side of society in Philadelphia, way back in the day. And when he took it over, he tried to step into his father's shoes without any knowledge or idea of how to do what he did. And so my dad was used to living in this very affluent role and having a ton of money and driving these super pimp cars that nowadays would be super pimp cars. And like, it was a very, very different lifestyle. And then he married my mom and started having a family. And he chose to live a life that didn't encompass the actual making of money. It was still riding on his father's coattails. And so once it transitioned over into having a family and I started growing up and integrating into this, money became scarcity, because we always lived in these huge houses, and we, on the outward appearance, it was as if we could do anything. But the daily conversation was, how are we going to pay this bill? This car is getting repossessed. Oh, as long as we keep this front out that we look like we're doing okay, the structure is going to remain intact. But my experience with money growing up, it's always been about, it's going to disappear. You're going to lose everything. There is no stability around it, right? And so it's been more of a trauma experience. And so at this point in my life, I really detached from the connection, the emotional connection to money. It's there or it's not. Right. And so it is an identity, and there's a relationship. It's like you can have a relationship with food, like you have a relationship with money. It's super, super complicated.
Great answer, Palace. I appreciate that.
I went over a minute, but
no problem. No problem. We had to let you flow.
Yeah. I have a question that is inspired from that one. How do maybe either your personal experience with the shift, or how other people can make the shift to go from thinking that their finances, their money, from like that survival component, to not identifying their worthiness from the finances, and making that shift? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Are you asking me about that specifically, or anybody?
Anybody.
Sure, somebody else step in on that one, because there's always things I can say.
I didn't get it fully.
I mean, like the how like have you associated money with your survival? Is that your, and then do you still feel that way, or do you not look at it that way? How did you get away from the survival fear around money to the enjoyment of it, or the freedom of it?
Yeah. Me personally, I never had this attachment like surviving and money related things. I could be in deep debt and still had a pretty good life, or no fears and good sleep. So, and that's somehow kind of scary, but sometimes it's just easy life. So I survived that somehow. I didn't know how, but I never needed much money to have a good life. So yeah, it's still today that I don't care much about money, and that's a problem at the same time.
Mm-hmm. So that's a relationship with money, and kind of unpacking what that actually is. Go ahead, Xavier.
Yeah, so I was gonna kind of answer the question about my relationship with money. Growing up, my story is I grew up around indifference. So I had so many people focused on their own stuff that there was really no guidance towards like how the energy of money can be used in a positive way. I did pick up messages that, from social and other people, because I went to a predominantly affluent high school. So I started picking up messages from that, because I was actually bused from my neighborhood, the ghetto, to this high school. And it was like, okay, I'm starting to see a lot of mixed messages around here. So growing up, I realized that it was more about, there was a lot of power that could be had behind money if it was used in the right way. So as I started growing older, I started learning about some of the different ways in which you can acquire and help your money grow without necessarily using people to do it. And it's a fascinating journey, but I'm happy about it. And I would love, when the opportunity presents itself, I'll be ready to share about that.
So for you guys, I have a question, actually. This kind of struck me, had an emotion come up. What is your emotion? What emotion do you connect with when we talk about finances and we talk about money? Like me, it brings up an emotion of sadness. It triggers all of these memories of growing up and the fights my parents had, and our houses getting repossessed and our cars getting repossessed. And so, like, I haven't really thought about that, but in hearing you guys speak and what Xavier was saying, my emotional charge, which needs to be, I just realized it's a charge that I need to integrate into me. It's in my nervous system somewhere. What emotions do you guys have attached to money and finance? Whether it's positive or negative or indifferent or neutral. I would prefer to be in a neutral space versus anything.
Yeah, like I could answer that from different ages as I've evolved my relationship to it. But I think at essence, I get like distraction. Like that to me is what comes up, distraction. Because for me, like I do things for passion. And when I intermix money into it, it feels like it distracts me from, or maybe more in the past, more so now, but it felt like it shifts the focus it shifts the focus to like creating for that versus creating for the passion. Like, and this is where like all the starving artist syndromes and all of that like kind of come in, is like I have much more fun with creativity, with my passion, with just being in that zone. I don't want to have to worry about that. It just feels like a distraction of like, I have to do all of this other stuff before I can do it. But I've like kind of unified that more so now that it's a byproduct instead of being a distraction or a focus. And that's kind of, that's what I feel.
Okay, that's good.
I can follow up on this one. Actually, I got like 3 main feelings when we're talking about finances and money. One is like irritation, like I don't know how people, or I'm irritated how people play with money, like showing off or having money and not showing off at all, and don't have money and show off a lot, and like how people, why are they doing this? That's one thing. The other feeling is like, I don't know if you say that is like being bored by it. Boring. Money is just paper or coins. So somehow you need it, but you don't really need it. There's so much more in life. And the third thing, it's excitement. Like what I can do with money. Like there are so many possibilities, and like changing the world, like changing people, and it's just awesome what power is in money.
Yeah, the power of money.
I like that. I know for me, I have to preface this because one of the aliases that people have referred to me as is the purveyor of positivity. So I'm going to answer that question only from my perspective of now. And when Palace asked about the emotion, I shared Johan's sentiment, excitement, like pure freaking. I feel like one of those kids that's the day before Christmas and they know they got presents to unwrap and they're like, oh, I can't wait, right? And it's only because there's a saying that I took in from a mentor of mine, and he's like, if you can see it in your head, you can hold it in your hands. And when I started buying into that, I started getting really excited about not knowing the how, but just being excited. The emotion always, in my world at least, the emotion always has to come before the physical manifestation. And when we get better at the art of placing the emotion first, then you get to enjoy the process of it coming to you. So for me, I'm excited because the things that I have in my mind for my future self will require a little bit of money, but I don't have to worry about the how. I just become me and keep doing me, and then I get to see it unfold. And so for me, I'm purely excited. I try not to spend too much time in my past because it doesn't make me feel good. And I only like to react to and create on things that make me feel good. There you go.
Like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Is money what when we talk about freedom, a lot of people associate money with freedom. How is it freedom and how is it not freedom?
So who wants to go first? I have an idea. I'll go. I think that money is obviously freedom because in today's society, Western culture, at least here in the US and other Western societies, this type of modern living, we don't have the resources, or most people don't have the education to grow their own food or have a mini farm or do the things that they need to be able to feed themselves. And so money is absolutely necessary to be able to provide, the core elements of staying alive, provide food and shelter. Food and shelter, are the first two, right? And then in order to make the money, we have to be able to provide transportation in some way, because most societies, it is not in like this small community. Europe is different because they still have villages where people can walk to work and do the things that they do. But like here in the US, people drive everywhere. Like most people have to have a vehicle or a bus to get someplace that they're going. And in order to do that, it can't be on, like heart connection. Like, that's cool that you like me and all, but put some money in the, in the gas tank. Let's go. And so in a way that's freedom, but it's also trapping us, right? It's also forcing us down in a lot of ways. I mean, it's how society works. I'm not saying that everything can be on free love, right? But then, so it gives us the freedom to move and explore and do the things that we want to do in life and have the education that we want, if we want to do, traditional education in that way. However, I do feel that it brings about these paradigms of glass ceilings for people because they get stuck in the belief systems about what money is, and that it's only the wealthy that can do this thing, and it's only this kind of blessed person that can do that thing, and oh, it was dumb luck that they're like super successful here, and I'm never going to be that person. And so there's this negative talk, negative belief systems that run rampant, that rogue code in the background for who we are, that end up making these things more of a confining, a glass ceiling. Like, we can look out of our glass house at everything that's going on, but we can't get there because there's something in us that doesn't, that we're separate from the abundance, that it's only available for other people. And so it becomes a mind altering experience for a lot of people, especially, for folks who come from very low socioeconomic backgrounds. Their whole experience of growing up and the dynamics of their neighborhoods and their communities and all of those things that are involved don't lend towards abundance, don't lend towards, being able to connect to the rest of society. It lends towards pressure to stay there. They don't have the resources to go. And so it's absolutely necessary to get where people want to go in certain facets, but then the resources just aren't there, and it's something that's only available for like the middle class or whoever up. You kind of know where I don't know if I'm explaining that really well. So it can be total freedom or it can be complete oppression, really depending on the mindset, what your upbringing is, what your resources are that you have available in your communities, in your neighborhoods, from your government, from the neighborhoods that surround you where you are. Are they, are you getting hidden away, or are you getting exposed? The more exposure that you get, you start looking at gentrifying, and you start looking at bringing, money into an area, right? So it's super complicated. It can be freedom or it can be jail. It all depends on the mindset about how you connect with it and what is actually available to you. Because we can talk all about money and how, we can break through with mindset and, and working in abundance and all of that is true. But yet then there's all these other battles that people have to fight of where they're actually living, what is available. How do they even leave to begin with, or bring something in? Mm-hmm. There you go. That's me.
So for me, there is a dichotomy that exists. You can definitely, well, let me first of all explain this. Money equals mm-hmm. options. Bottom line, right? However, you have to be very careful about a few things. In my world, you have to be careful about the language or the story that you choose to accept around the topic of money. That could come from what you saw your ancestors do before you. It could have something to do with a traumatic experience or things of that nature. And then there's the story of what has been conditioned, like thrown at you, like your education that you've been taught, that some people are realizing that it's a complete lie. Or the other thing that we must be careful of is how we go about attaining it. Like, if we can do it corruptly and find out, come up with a system that nobody can find out about it, that's gonna open the door to like suffering on the inside. If you do it through helping others and like everybody can have access to it, because that part is true, then it opens the door to fulfillment. At least that's how I feel about it, because if you're not careful about how you go about getting or obtaining the money, it can definitely lead to suffering and depression and all the things that make your soul uneasy. So that's where we, in my opinion, we have to be very mindful about how we are creating it.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah.
it's true.
Well, money and freedom. For me, money itself is not freedom. It depends on the system you're living in, the system you can work with the money in, and the behaviors, like how you use it. And for me, freedom is more like the opportunity to be creative and to adapt to different situations, because money can't bring you freedom. It's just a thing that you use, and your ability to use it, it's more like the way that brings you freedom, like how you use it. And yeah, it's just I don't know, just like money itself, it's just a thing that is there. You can buy a boat, you can buy a house, but if you do so, there comes other things with it, and you're not free anymore.
You know, Johan, what you just said reminded me of a statement that I hope I do not butcher. This comes from another person I started becoming attracted to, but you have to be very mindful again of making sure that you use things and love people, and not use people and love things. And that's how I attach that statement to money. Because if you're not careful, you can definitely manipulate people to privately gain at the loss of the public, as we can see in our country here. And that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah.
That's very true, because, you know, when I was talking about my dad and where he came from growing up, something to understand about that era, if my dad was still alive, he'd be in his late 80s, early 90s now, I think. But that era for him, when his father had a hotel, restaurant, bar, nightclub in Philly, is everything was entirely mafia controlled. Entirely mafia controlled. And in order, especially the nightclub scene, right? And in order to do anything that they did, if my dad was alive today, he'd be like, "Oh, I wasn't involved with the, you know, the whatever." But he was, you had to be corrupt. You had to pay people off. You had to launder money. You had to do these things, or one, they would shut you down, or two, they would kill you. Like, I don't come from the mob. I don't come from the mafia, but I come from my dad's side, who his dad wasn't a really good guy, right? And so my dad acquired a lot of those traits. And so, you know, I come from the extreme perspective of stepping on other people to get where you want to go when it comes to money. Like, I even remember, well, I don't remember specifically, but because I was really little, but the story from my dad and my mom was that, you know, they had this friend, and I'm not going to say any names, back in Philadelphia, that came to our house in Valley Forge with his car with a trunk load of money and was like, "Hey, you going to take care of this for me for a little bit?" And the story is my dad said no. According to my mom, because my mom always looks at things on the up and up. But you can't say no to somebody that drives up with a car with an entire trunk load of money and say, "No, why don't you have somebody else take care of that for you?" You know? And so all of that tracks back to the extreme of violence and the extreme of manipulation of people and the extreme of dominance. You know, my sister, my oldest sister, she followed in my dad's footsteps. And she's a lot older than me. And she was in New York, and her story was that she was the mistress of the Dom. And, you know, that, you know, we're talking blood money. We're talking like hardcore, legit, get to the bowels of the crazy stuff that happens out there. Like, that's what my family was connected to. on my mom's side, not at all. And all the stories stop at my mom and say, oh, that wasn't real. But it was. So, that perspective is that somehow we were protected, and I was protected to this day. I don't know who any of these people were, but that is the kind of system that I've grown up knowing about and being on the fringe too. And that kind of scary. I mean, scary is not even a word. So anyway, just interjecting that story because it tags along to where Xavier was going with that. And that's like an extreme version. And money corrupts. Money commands. Money dictates. Money creates oppression and it creates freedom. But the only true freedom that, if we're going to back out of my story now, but when it comes to freedom, the only true freedom is that in our own minds and that in our own energetic frequencies. Because when we allow anything else to come in and impact us, then it takes away our voice and it takes away our freedom. And I think about the people from the Holocaust and some of the survivors and the stories and the letters that were written and how they would talk about the only way they kept their humanity was by a belief in their own soul, a belief that their freedom was not something that anybody could take away. And so it all comes down to who we are as this spiritual being having this human experience and looking outside of ourselves to see what are these things, these interference patterns, these people, these situations, these belief systems that come in and trap us and take away our freedom. So those are my thoughts.
Jeremy, did you have something that you wanted to put in on that?
Not particularly, except just that options don't equal freedom. To kind of work off that, and if it kind of leads into another question, but for me, the oppression, the control element of it, all of that, it really, like on an emotional level, the way that I see it is very much intermixed with guilt and shame. Like that is the weaponizer of debt, is that it is guilt on an emotional level, and especially in the ancestral kind of narrative, guilt and debt are how you keep a population from really realizing their freedom, because guilt and debt being intertwined is what keeps people, like, the idea that if I have debt, then I'm not a good human being, because it's carrying this guilt around why I'm not a good civilian, or why I'm not a good person at the core of it, or a good citizen. So that to me is what comes up on the emotional level when we talk about why it's not freedom. And unless please chime in, but the question that came up was, if you could say something or offer a nugget of wisdom to disrupt someone in a disempowering pattern with finances, what would it be? If you like, someone's just the idea of finances is stressful, it's anxiety, it's fear, it's survival, it's all of this negativity, this negative worldview, and finances are at the root of it. How do you disrupt it? What would you offer to them to disrupt it, as a question?
Well, I can only speak from my personal journal on this one, going through some of the episodes that I have witnessed in myself and the messages that I was taking. I first had to get over a big hurdle, and that was forgiveness. mainly on my parental units. I'm telling you, Jeremy, the moment I made the decision to forgive, that is the first day that I started to live. Beyond that, it really opened my eyes / perspective on what I had to do to see the world from another lens that was opposite my conditioning of lack, can't afford, don't do that, be frugal in all you do because something terrible is going to happen type of mentality. So here's how it started for me. I got into the habit of asking every night before I went to bed, and the moment I woke up, what's possible for my life today? That's it. And then allow the prefrontal cortex to do the work, to help me see opportunities, to help me see the right human that I might need for the next step in my life. Does that make sense?
100%.
And so when I started just doing that, just keeping it simple, just doing that, and then I started to have to become open and receptive to whatever was coming at me. I would have to sift. Some things were coming at me as people smiling in my face, but they really want me to do some multi-level marketing stuff, and I had to make a decision. So again, it always boils down to what choice am I comfortable with, what brings me joy, and then go from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you say it's about the lenses, it's so true, because a couple of years ago when I was I went through some pretty intense trauma coaching, like for myself. And there was a lot of different practices and such that were brought into this journey that I was going on with my coach. His name was Rob Scott. He's amazing. You guys can look him up. But one of the core practices that he taught us was a gratitude practice. And it had to do with connecting to our heart and how you actually shift your belief systems, your lenses of looking out at the world. Because people are like, well, sure, shift your lenses. That's easy for you to say. It was an actual practice where every morning we had several questions that we had to go through and read the question and answer the question about gratitude. And we had to find gratitude for anything. I mean, there was you're going through trauma, and so people are like, there's nothing I have to be grateful for right now. It's really tough. And it was starting as something as simple as a bird flying by was really beautiful, or a leaf on a tree, or the sunbeam felt really good. I mean, we're talking like super, super basic stuff. And going through this, not even a mantra, but this process of doing all this stuff like 5 times in a row, I can't remember exactly, in the morning and at night. And it wasn't about you necessarily even believed what you were saying. It's that you were literally reprogramming your mind to a different viewpoint. And this process went for the course of a month. It was to do this every single day. And kind of where this started was that for people who are like, oh, I'm so unlucky in life. Like my finances are horrible. Nothing works for me. I'm always going to be broke. All this horrible stuff. It's when you're looking out of your eyes with the belief system that nothing's going to work. Nothing's going to work. You're only going to see the dude that just flipped you off when you were driving down the road, when you were actually having a really happy conversation with your partner, or you're only going to see, the negative things that are out there. You're only going to tune in to the crazy politics and how the world's ending and all the oppressive things that come in to disrupt us and tell us that we can't be more than we are, right? And so it is true lenses. And so through the course of this process over a month of this gratitude practice, every morning and every night, it reprograms our brains to shift our lenses and our belief systems to actually seeing the goodness and the abundance that is out there, versus only being able to filter in the stuff that was here to hurt us and that was detrimental. I guess it's a boundary practice in ways, and it was and is, and it's a very profound activity, because somebody's struggling so hard, it comes down to the belief systems that we hold and how we see the world. And then what are we going to do with that information? And if the only information that we get is oppressive all the time, then we're going to stay in that oppressed state. But if the information that we get is that there is abundance and there is hope and there is love, and I do have worth, I am worth something, I do have power, I do have autonomy, I do have choices to do whatever the thing is that I need to try to accomplish in life, then that changes the whole game. And so it's a true reprogramming of the belief systems and switching out the lenses, you know, starting with a pair of like Coke bottle lenses, and you see the world with like Coke bottles and prisms. You're like, that's not actually the world, but that's your reality. And over the course of the month, you slowly switch out that lens every day, just a little bit more, until you get the exact right prescription to see the world the way that it is, not the way that you're perceiving it to be, or the way that it is in a place of abundance for you, right? Your own unique experience.
That's so awesome. Palace and Xavier, I just feel you so much. It's perfect. I don't have much to add to this, but I can bring it down to 3 basic steps. Like forgiving is like in the past, like you forgive the people they brought you bad thoughts. Gratitude is the moment you're living in, being grateful for the things of the day, and I think this imagination thing is about the future. And if you work on all these 3 like dimensions every day, you just get loose of all bad thoughts in your head and going forward to a better life, to better financial thinking. And especially like this forgiving thing worked for me perfectly. Like 2 months ago, I started an online course for forgiveness, and it just changed so much. Like I learned so many tools like tapping and chaining, and it's just awesome. So I can recommend that one to everyone.
That's awesome. I can feel that. So I appreciate you, Johan, for stepping in and sharing. This is how we become better. I believe as individuals, more importantly, as a collective. And that speaks volumes to this one over here, or this one over here. Yeah. Because the vision that this one had the courage to step forward on, speaking of future thinking, I believe that's what Palace has put all this together for. And correct me if I'm wrong, Palace, but this is what's happening now, correct?
Yeah, no, you're exactly on target.
Boom. And
exactly on target.
We would not be able to do this without moments just like this, you know? And I especially feel like it would be impossible if we didn't have Jeremy's like Hollywood eyes just staring in the screen, you know? Because he makes us all feel like warm and fuzzy.
Oh.
Right?
Well, I have a question for you guys.
Shoot.
What do you think? How are you getting by with the financial system you're living in? Can you adopt easily? Was it easy for you to learn the system, to work the system? Would you like to change it? Did you change part of the system for you personally to better get by with financial thinking and money at all?
It's a good question. I'll take that one. I know for me, I'm a big believer in creating my reality versus waiting on someone else to create my reality. So with as much power as I individually can muster, the only thing I'm worried about right now is changing my own ecosystem, step 1. So eventually I can share my knowledge and experiences with the rest of my family so that wave gets just a little bit bigger. And then when they experience success as far as finances are concerned, and they don't have to harm other people to attain it, then they share it. So the wave just continues to get bigger. And eventually, the generation is saved through one person at a time mentality. That's how I see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't have much to add for that. I agree. Because just going back to the Conscious Leadership Network, that's the whole point of what we're doing. It's to show up as individuals, establishing our authority around whatever the thing is that's most important to us, that we've lived life and experienced and now we can share. But then showing up as a collective, all speaking with a collective voice about this thing that is so near and dear to all of us, healing that core wound and helping people establish that authority of voice in themselves and being able to show up in the world. And I think that, people feel so isolated and alone, and we've been conditioned in our societies, many societies, not all, that we have to go at it alone, especially men. Men, we could have a whole weeks and weeks talking about the oppression of men. And it's the isolation of having to do these things, whatever they are, raise a family, have a job, make the money, integrate into the financial system, show up, have a house, put your kid in college. And not that women don't do that too, where it's equal. But in talking about showing up, women and men both have this isolation that we have to do it ourselves, and especially women, because we're still working really hard at breaking through that glass ceiling that's been imposed on us, and a concrete ceiling over very recent years, right? And the concept of dealing with the financial system or whatever it is that we're doing, it's that individually we can navigate it, we can do our best, and deal with the system and affect change on the level that we can. But when we start coming together in a community and we start looking at other ways to connect and other ways to share and other ways to trade and other ways to get these things that we need, then we're starting to make our own system. I don't know if we're talking about a barter system or if we're talking about a different ecosystem of what is that exchange? As an energy medicine practitioner, and most energy medicine practitioners will agree, is that when you're going to give a session, that there should be an exchange of energy back, whether that's financial or it's something, right? Because it's an equal exchange. We're sharing, we're helping them grow, they're helping us grow, because we're all part of this together, right? And if we're looking at the financial systems, it's pretty broken. To be taxed on taxes, to be taxed on those taxes and taxed on that here in the US is pretty ridiculous, right? But then if we can start looking at these things coming together as a collective and other ways of communicating, and other ways of trading services, and other ways of giving and taking and receiving the things that we need, then we're starting to create our own ecosystem, our own barter system, our own trade, our own world, and a new way of doing things that is for the betterment of all versus the betterment of the 25,000 different layers of taxes and the system that does oppress people, and the economic brackets that take more money from this one and less money from that person, right? We all are stuck in that system. It is what it is, but you can still make your own systems within the system that make more sense for who you are and what you do. And I'm not saying that it's just a utopia. I'm saying there's other ways to have these exchanges.
So I'll give my spacey off the my spacey answer to this to kind of put a bow on it. I see, Palace, what you're saying. The word stuck, I don't really resonate with, but I feel the perspective, and I definitely feel the truth in that. So for me, in how I envision and kind of, I guess our word for it, right? Role modeling it. For me, I feel it as scarcity and abundance are the different the frequencies, if you want to look at it like that, the scarcity and the abundance. But abundance is kind of more energetic and ephemeral than the real life word. And because in this paradigm, it is scarcity based. There are a scarcity of resources from the current human condition. Abundance is kind of very, very distant as a concept. So for me, I tap into the Star Trek vision, on a visionary level, on a like, what is it like to live in that reality imagination? Because in the 23rd century, in the Star Trek, technology is so advanced that basically it is abundance, because you can replicate any resource that you want from nothing. That's literally the premise. So there is no more need for money when there is no more scarcity of resources, because you can create from nothing. So for me, I build a bridge, and I feel like we're in the middle of it right now, not totally in the scarcity and not totally in the abundance. And there's a bridge to be built, because it's not going to come from the current system. It is a totally new system altogether. And to me, what really makes the bridge structural is passion, because in that future, people don't have to work. When there's technology and artificial intelligence and all of that, where there's no more need to work for survival, it puts creativity and passion and purpose ahead of making money. And that, most people can't compute that flip in existence, in creating their reality, not conditioned upon survival, but that survival is already guaranteed. And so for me, that flip in the imagination, and putting passion first, and living from that place of passion, regardless of what the old paradigm is saying, that is what I feel like I'm role modeling with my work, is already being in that, without the conditions having to say that it's the case.
Mm-hmm. I definitely feel that, man. I honor you for saying that, because I just got expanded. My mind just got expanded. So I will have to step in, though, however, and bring in the spirit of Carol Burnett and say that I'm so glad we've had this time.
It is time together. Yes.
But I have to go.
Awesome. And Xavier, thank you very much for joining. I think that is we have put a bookmark on it for today. We will be back for another Disruptors Roundtable. And if we're going by my list still, the topic for next time, I should have had this up, but I didn't. Let's get it.
It's all good. It's all love.
Yep. Is finances, career. I love it, because we have a lot to disrupt about career, or at least I do. I'm going to bring a lot.
Yes, bring it.
For me too.
Yes.
Hopefully you can join us again.
Yeah. So if you're catching the replay, make sure you catch us in 2 weeks. Same time, same place. YouTube page, Facebook page, and Conscious Leadership Network. So you can get the link to hop in like Johan did so courageously and amazingly today. It was really awesome to have you here. And
don't forget, if you don't subscribe, there might be push-ups involved.
Right. Oh gosh, yes. Like, subscribe, share, all of that, push-ups. With that, Coach X, you wanna send us off?
I've just reminded everybody, we always have choice. Everything in life involves or boils down to choice. So the question I have for you is, why be mediocre when you can be excellent? And be excellent on purpose today.
Bye, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.